Put your faith in the light.
Hello guys, welcome to another one of my videos. This is Lightblade, and yes, I know it's been a very long time since I've done one of these, but you know, sometimes life happens and you just gotta go take care of that, on top of some other issues that I had with my connection. But I'm back now and I'm gonna cover the whole cycle of the Curse of Ula'tek 12.1 patch for Retribution Paladins. So in this video, I'm going to catch up with all these changes that happened in the first PTR blue post, so all the class and spec changes for Retribution Paladins, and also the tier set bonuses that we got and what I think about them. So with that being said, let's start with the video. Okay guys, here we are at the first blue post that Blizzard made a week ago, but I wanted to catch up on everything, so I'm gonna talk of every single one of the changes, give you guys my opinion, and at the end, after we also review the tier set bonus that we're going to get next patch, I'm gonna give you guys my opinion on how good a Retribution Paladin is going to be. Okay, let's start with the class changes. So first of all, they're buffing Golden Path healing by 25%, which is pretty meaningless because that thing does almost no healing, so kind of a very weak buff to healing there. Light First Blessing healing increased by 25%, so this one is actually kind of impactful because Light First Blessing is a very big chunk of your healing at the end of a Mythic Plus dungeon, so this is gonna be pretty decent. After that, we got Brought to Light healing increased by 25%, so this is a talent not many people take, mostly because it does a big amount of healing, but you do have to fulfill the certain things. You need to have big packs where things are going to be dying, so every mob that dies heals your groups. If you can fulfill that, then it's a pretty decent amount of healing that they're going to be buffing, but if not, normally you take something else, so kind of like mid buffs to healing there. Now let's go to the Retribution Paladin changes. So first of all, Blizzard is going to be doing a philosophy change on cooldowns, and this is going to affect Retribution Paladins as well. So they're going to reduce the impact that cooldowns have and buff the damage that we do outside of them for everyone, So our basic abilities, spenders, builders, they're all gonna be buffed in a certain way, but we're gonna lose damage on most of our major cooldowns. After that, for Retribution Paladins specifically, they are going to reduce the pressure on consuming your Art of War from your Apex talent, the big wave of light, because normally you got that proc, you wanted to just smash it as fast as possible because you run the risk of just getting another one on top of it and, wasting it. And they're also going to be removing interactions with Sky Fury and Crusading Strikes that impacts our Holy Power economy, because that was also very annoying. We always had to play with a shaman, no matter what. We needed a shaman in our group, because if not, you lost like 10% of your damage because of the interactions with Crusading Strikes, which was very dumb, And well, yeah, let's now go to the individual changes for Retribution Paladin. Okay, so the first change that is happening here is to our Apex talent. Light within rank 1 now has an additional effect. Art of War and Righteous Cause can now accumulate an additional time. So this is going to be the way that they're going to be reducing the pressure of having to spend that Art of War proc for our Apex talent as fast as you get it. You have a little wiggle room for error because now you can stack 2 of them, but I still recommend whenever you get that Art of War proc, you just use it as fast as you can. After that, you got Art of War has been updated. Now only increases the Blade of Justice damage by 80%. It was 150. So it's a flat nerf for that, but it's kind of offset by the next change, which is Blade of Justice damage increased by 40%, just flat out. So kind of offsets the first nerf, but still a nerf. After that, we got Final Verdict damage increased by 15%, Divine Storm damage increased by 15%, so that's a pretty huge buff for our Holy Power spenders. This is pretty good because we have a bunch of other multiplicative effects for our spenders. We got Divine Purpose procs, we got 20% extra damage whenever we have wings from our Apex talent, so there's a lot of extra multiplicative damage that is going to increase our spender damage, so these are pretty huge. After that, we have the nerf to our major cooldown, which is Avenging Wrath. Now only increases the damage done and critical strike by 15%. It was 20, so I don't see this as a big nerf to it. It's kind of very small, and I think all the other buffs they're giving to our basic abilities are just going to offset this and even get us as a buff, hit us as a buff more than a nerf. So next up, we got Temper Strike damage increased by 50% and Temper Slash damage increased by 50%. So this is the other talent that you don't take, and normally you take just Crusading Strikes, but with these changes, I think Templar Strike is going to eventually overtake Crusading Strikes this patch, mostly because of the also scaling. So Templar Strikes does scale with Mastery because it does holy damage, while Crusading Strikes does physical damage, so it doesn't scale with Mastery, it only does with haste and critical strikes. So eventually this patch we are going to get to a point that we get enough Mastery where Templar Strike with these changes as well is going to overtake Crusading Strikes and its Holy Power generation, you know, the passive Holy Power generation. Hopefully, because I'm really bored of Crusading Strikes. After that, we got Judgment damage increased by 50%, which is also Hammer of Wrath damage increased by 50%. This is pretty big, mostly because Hammer of Wrath has a multiplicative effect, you know, whenever a target is lower. So this is just really, really huge for that. Divine Toll's Judgment is gonna be reduced by 50%. It used to be 100% extra damage, now it's only going to be 50. So a lot of people don't know that, but your Divine Toll's Judgments do double damage in live servers. So this is a small nerf to another cooldown. You know, it can be a 30-second cooldown or 1-minute cooldown depending on the talent that you're using, but they're nerfing it a bit. This also hurts a bit Templar because of the talent that we take, Divine Exaction. You know, you throw 3 extra Divine Tolls to your main target, so that's also going to be a bit nerfed. After that, you got the Apex talent Light within rank 3, damage reduced by 25%. So this is the big wave of light after you use an Art of War proc. So another way they're reducing the pressure to use your proc as fast as you can because the damage is now reduced, but still going to be a priority. I still recommend just use it as fast as you can. After that, they're gonna do some healing buffs to Flash of Light, 25% increase. We rarely use Flash of Light, so it's kind of a whatever healing buff. Word of Glory though increased by 25%. This one is really big, especially for Herald of the Sun, because they do have Eternal Flame instead of Word of Glory. That's also increased by 25%. So Eternal Flame has its own modifier, you know, it's 35% extra healing if you are low, and on top of that it stacks with the 50% that you get from, I think, Healing Hands. So Eternal Flame, if you're low enough, it's basically just a lay on hands for 3 holy power, which is really, really damn good for Herald. Herald has really good recovery, while Templar does have mitigation, you know. So yeah, pretty good buff for Herald of the Sun healing as a Retribution Paladin. After that, we got Art of War no longer activates from additional Sky Fury attacks. This is huge. I love this change. It's very annoying to always have to play with a Shaman, because if you don't, you lose like 10% of your damage. So very nice change that they're doing there. Additionally, Sky Fury attacks no longer generate holy power when talented into Crusading Strikes. So this is another one of those changes that I think is going to make Crusading Strikes go away and people start taking Templar Strikes, because the extra holy power generation from just passively having Crusading Strikes and a Shaman was crazy. But now that doesn't happen. Maybe just manual generation with Templar Strike is going to overtake it, on top of the scaling of Mastery. Okay, after that, Crusading Strike is getting a small buff, now increases your auto attack speed by 15% instead of decreasing it by 20%. So it's still going to be good, I think, at the start of the patch, but eventually, once we get a bunch of extra mastery from gear, this buff is going to not compete with Templar Strikes, hopefully, because I want to use Templar Strikes. Okay, next up we got Execution Sentence Area Effect Radius increased to 10 yards and now includes the bounding radius of the target. Before it was only 8 yards. So I think this is a really good change, because the area of effect of our Execution Sentence is very small compared of what it's based off. You know, Final Reckoning used to be a very big circle and it hit a bunch of things, but Execution Sentence is kind of small, so I like this change, so you can hit more targets and funnel the damage into the main one. And well, to end this part, let's talk about the changes happening to our hero talents, specifically Templar, where Hammer of Light is going to get nerfed by 30%, which does not affect PvP combat, because, well, Hammer of Light is technically a major cooldown, because it happens after Wake of Ashes, is getting the same treatment as Avenging Wrath and Divine Toll, so it's gonna lose a bit of its strength. But don't worry, the niche that Hammer of Light fills is going to be taken by our new tier set once we get to talk about it, you know. On top of that, it's now only going to cost 3 holy power instead of 5, which doesn't really change our rotation too much. Maybe after you Hammer of Light, now you can fill it with an extra holy power spender before you Divine Toll, but that's pretty much it. But it's nice that they just streamlined all our holy power spenders to only 3 holy power instead of the weird 5 that was Hammer of Light. Now let's talk about the tier set bonus. Okay, so our tier set bonus. So first of all, let's talk about the philosophy that Blizzard has this season 2 for tier set bonuses. They want them to be a bit more complex and impactful than the season 1. After that, they also want them to change how our rotation works a bit and utilize the cooldown manager. So I think they actually hit every single one of these points whenever they made the Retribution tier set bonus for the next season, because well, it is very impactful. First of all, let's talk about the 2 set bonus. So Divine Purpose has an additional 10% chance to activate, and consuming it gives you Divine Power, increasing your holy damage done by 10% for 12 seconds. So that's something you want to track. You know, whenever you get a Divine Purpose, you gotta say, okay, I got extra damage here, so if I, let's say, have a proc of my Divine Hammer, I want to throw it here because it's because of the 10% extra damage. Now on top of that, it has the 4 set bonus that whenever you consume a Divine Purpose, but only with Divine Storm, your next final verdicts unleash Divine Arbiter, which is something that a lot of people don't know but existed before as a capstone talent back in the Dragonflight days, where it does the same thing that it says here in the tier set bonus. It did big damage to your main target and small secondary damage to everything around it, around 8 yards. So I remember, I think in Dragonflight it was like 6 yards, so it was a very small AoE range. I think they buffed it for the tier set bonus, which is really good because the properties of the AoE from Divine Arbiter are fully uncapped. So if everything is very clumped together in that 8-yard range, you are going to be hitting everything very hard with uncapped AoE damage, which is really nice. So this tier set bonus is really good, as I said before, because it makes you think. So okay, I proc the Divine Purpose proc, I'm in single target. Now I have to Divine Storm here so I can get my final verdicts, so I get my Divine Arbiter procs. In AoE it's a bit more simple because well, you're always going to Divine Storm, but then you have to remember to single target 2 times so you get the procs from Divine Arbiter. And when you do use those procs of Divine Arbiter, you have to think, okay, is everything together so I can like use those Divine Arbiter procs and do the AoE damage to everything that's around. So yeah, you gotta think on these procs. You also want to track your Divine Arbiter procs, you want to track your Divine Purpose procs and the time you have remaining on your holy extra holy damage, you know. So yeah, it's a really good tier that I think is really well done for Retribution Paladins. I like it a lot. Okay guys, what's my conclusion after seeing these first changes in the PTR for Retribution Paladins? Are we going to be good next patch? So I'm gonna say yes, Retribution Paladin is going to be in a great spot next patch because mostly the nerfs are not that impactful, you know, but the buffs are very substantial and are going to offset most of those nerfs. We also have a great tier set bonus because it gives you extra multiplicative damage in the 2 set bonus, and it also gives you prio damage on the 4 set on top of uncapped AoE if you obviously fulfill the 8-yard condition of everything being there. So it's just really strong, and Retribution Paladin is going to be in a great spot if things continue like that. But you know, it's the first pass of changes in the PTR. A lot of things can change, and I'm gonna change my opinion if they do nerfs and all those kind of things. And well guys, that's going to be the end of the video. So I know it's not the most fresh news because it happened like a week ago, but I really wanted to catch up on things that are happening in the PTR and give you guys my opinion on them, you know. I'm just really happy to be doing content again for you guys, and I'm very sorry I wasn't there for the last season, but this one I will be making all my guides. I will also be covering all the information in the PTR for you so you can know what's happening to Retribution Paladins. So if you find my video informative, like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching everyone.